Hi everybody, and welcome to part 2 of Home is Where the Haunt Is pillow. And this time we're going to be doing 3 blocks, and we're going to be doing the Bugs and Hisses block, the Haunted House block, and the Mind Your Mummy block. So in the live video we will have done the hat and the pumpkins. So again, we are doing these quilt as you go, so I'm going to always put in my hoop. I'm going to use no-show mesh stabilizer. So this is a 5x7 hoop, but we're going to start with Bugs and Hisses. So here's my little kit. We talked a little bit about this in the live video. Here's my little kit for Bugs and Hisses and the Haunted House. I've got all my little pieces in there, okay? And then here's Mind Your Mummy. Okay, so those are the ones we're going to do in this video. Alright, so we're going to start with Bugs and Hisses. And I've got my scraps of batting. Remember, I don't cut the batting out. I like to just you know, plop a scrap in there and trim it out so I don't have to cut. And I'm kind of lazy. I don't like to cut. And then we're going to do a little bit of, this one we're going to have some glitter vinyl in it. So we'll do a little glitter vinyl. And then this one's mostly just lettering and words, but we're going to do the quilting first. So like we talked about in the live video, I actually did pare down the quilting designs a little bit because they used so many in this particular pillow. So when my original one, I used all of them because I have them all, but I thought it was a lot to purchase. So we're just going to use Halloween 1, Halloween 4, Chevron 1, and then the Halloween border, or Borders Halloween, I think it's 2 that I chose. I think it's Borders Halloween 2. Better look. Yep, Borders Halloween 2. So that I got it down to 4 because I think there was like 8 or 9 different ones they used. So I thought that was just a lot of quilting designs. So we're going to use for Bugs and Hisses. So let's talk about Bugs and Hisses. I put Shape Flex. Let me get my little kit open here. I put Shape Flex on the back of my background fabric, and it's this orange, this white with the little orange polka dots, and I got my Shape Flex on the back, okay? And then I have cut out a piece of the only other applique was this little piece of glitter vinyl, and I've already removed the carrier sheet. I think this was probably a scrap, so it may not have had one. And then there's a piece of kind of medium rickrack that's 8 inches long. So that's going to be, it's going to hang like, it's like the spiders hanging from the witch's hat, which will be right above this block. So this is sort of like the spider's web hanging from the hat. So that's what this is going to be. But we're going to put it in this one. Okay. Then I've got my I've got my batting over here. Got my no-show mesh stabilizer in the hoop. I've got just standard bobbin thread in the bobbin, just my white bobbin thread. And then I'm going to start out with, I'm going to do Halloween 1 on this one, and it's the 2x8. So the little list that's on the front, if you have all of these quilting designs, you're more than welcome, of course, to use the ones that they call for. So this is Bugs and Hisses, and I think they did Halloween 1 on that one anyway, so it's listed here. So Halloween 1, 2x8. But you can see how I've written in my alternates for these so that we didn't have to use quite so many for this one, because I just thought it was a lot of quilting designs. So I think this came out at about the same time as the quilt, the Candy Corn Quilt Shop one, and they had like a bundle for that, so then they assumed that everybody already had the designs, so that's why they used so many in this. But I thought 4 was a good number. So okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with this, and I need to bring up the designs. So let's bring the designs up so you can see what we're going to do. Make sure I got my stick in my machine here. All right, so we're going to go in, and the first thing we're going to bring up is Halloween 1, 2x8, and that's the quilting. So I'm going to bring up, let's see, I may have put it in the wrong hoop. Let me see. May have to bring it into, it's 2x8, so you know what, I'm going to have to put it in an 6x10 hoop. So I may have to stop the video for a second and do that, but let's just bring this up. I forgot that this one was long and skinny, so I might have put it in the wrong hoop. So let's go ahead and get the my stick, and then let's see, my Kimberbell Quilting, and it was Halloween 1. So we're going to go down here. Yeah, I'm going to have to put this in my 6x10 hoop. So I'll stop the video for a minute and rehoop my hoop. So sorry about that. Halloween. Let's see. GH. Halloween 1. I used 1 for this one. And then we're going to do embroidery files. PES. And then we're going to do the 2x8. So it's 2x8 right here. Okay. And so yeah, so it's 8.5. So I'm going to have to go get my 6x10 hoop. So sorry about that. I forgot that it always says 5x7 on here, and I just grabbed the hoop it says, but I forget that we have to put the quilting designs in. Okay, and then we're going to bring in the little design in the Bugs and Hisses design. So I'm going to hit set on this one, and then I'm going to add, and I'm going to go get Home is Where the Haunt Is. Let's see, do I have it on here? I hope I have it on here. Maybe I took it off. Uh-oh, so now I got to go get my designs too. So I'll just stop the video for a second, and you know, you understand that these are live kind of, so I'll run and get it. I thought I had it on here, but I must have taken it off. Just a moment, I'll be right back. Okay, so I think I have all the right stuff now. You know, you always think you have everything all set up, and then you forget something. So I apologize. You know that this is this is just me, and this happens when we're all sewing. So okay, so now I've got my Home is Where the Haunt Is on my stick now. I had it on there, but I must have taken it off by accident. Okay, Home is Where the Haunt Is. There we go. So now we can do embroidery files, PES, and I'm going to get, this is Bugs and Hisses. So let's see here. Here's Bugs and Hisses. So that's the one we want. Okay, and I'm going to hit set on that one. Now this one's also going to be, let's see if it gave me any extra instructions on here. Cut this fabric, let's see, hoop stabilizing fabric, and center mark and center in the hoop. Okay, so everything's centered in the hoop on this one too. And what they do when you cut it is they're going to have you cut it a little differently so that one of the little I want to say the little spider webs are going to be closer to one end, so they have you trim it a little differently. But let's see, I may have done this differently in my hoop also. Let me take a look here, because it tells you where is the little, have to look here, where is the little, it says when you're trimming, let me look at the trimming instructions. From the inner edge of the ruler using the 6x10 or the 6.5 by 8.5 ruler. And oh, one of the little spider web is like going to be 1/4 of an inch from the, so we're going to move this down actually. This one I'm going to move down. Let me look at the, so here's my this little spider web right here. I couldn't see it very well with the other spider webs on there. But this is going to be our trimming line right here, and then the inside, you can kind of see the inside line is where the stitching line, that's where our seam allowance is going to be. So it says to place the ruler spider web 1/4 inch away from inner edge of ruler. So in other words, we want this little guy. I remember I did this wrong when I did him the first time. We want him down here because we want the spider web on the left. Yeah, because I'm looking at the picture. I'll show you the picture. You can see, because they wanted the spider web, see, on the, just on the edge of the seam allowance over here. And then you can see here that it's kind of offset, so there's a little bit extra white over here. So yeah, so we're actually going to move this one. It doesn't say to do it. They didn't give quite as many centering instructions on this one as they did on Sweet Land of Liberty. So I'm going to grab this again, and I'm going to hit edit and move, and I'm going to center it first because I want to make sure I got it centered this way. And then where my little spider web is. I remember I had to do this over again. I should have written this a little more clearly in my instructions. So I'm going to bring this down so I can see, got to see where the little, it's hard to see where the spider web is. Can you see where the red line is? That red line is going to set on the inside kind of orange line, because then it'll lay about right on the 1/4 inch seam. So down here is where we're going to trim it at the bottom, and then it's going to, the seam allowance is going to be up about 1/4 inch. So we want the little spider web, the edge of the little spider web to set on that 1/4 inch line. So there, I think we got it. So now see, it looks more like the picture. And they didn't have that very clearly stated. So here I've got him down. I remember I did this wrong. I had to sew this one over the second time. I should have made a bigger note in my notes. So yeah, so see, I've got him down here. And there's another spider line, but you can see the red line around that. And see how I have it down on the, like the, that's going to be the stitching line. And then there's 1/4 inch below it. And then there's a little bit of a, like a gap up here at the top. So that looks like the picture now. Okay. So since we're doing these quilting in the hoop, you have to move your designs, because like when they do them and then sew them together, they have you trimming it a certain way. So I forgot about that. I'm going to make a note in this so I don't forget if I have to do this again. All right. So I think we got it right. So we got it pulled down. So the red line is about 1/4 inch above the tack down line for the fabric, okay? And then that'll be right in the seam. So the end of our little spider web will be kind of right in the seam, okay? All right, and then I also, during the time, so we got this, I think I've got that happy where I need it. I'm gonna hit embroidery. Okay, so we got our quilting stuff first. So I'm gonna go back over here. And in the meantime, I went over and got my 6x10 hoop, because you know I didn't read the instructions carefully enough. And let's see, what else are we going to do? Oh, okay, so we're going to start with the applique, and after we do the quilting. So I want to quilt this one. I had this one written. I'm going to want to quilt this one in white. So what I'm going to do, the first step, it's always the same in the quilting, is the first step. I have my white thread in my needle then. The first step is always going to be the placement line for the batting. So hopefully this wasn't too confusing for you, since I made a mistake. This was the one I had trouble with when I made the original pillow. And evidently I didn't write it in there clear enough. Because I remember doing the block a second time, because I was like, that doesn't look quite right. But they didn't give you as many centering instructions for the quilting in this one as they did in Sweet Land of Liberty. So, okay. All right, so we got our placement line for our batting, and then I'm going to lay my chunk of batting in here. Cover the line, and then I'm going to sew down. Number 2 is going to be the tack down line for the batting, and then we'll trim our batting. I hate to start over videos, so I usually don't. And so if I make a mistake, everybody usually understands. We all make mistakes, don't you? And I have made so many mistakes quilting and embroidering that I think it's good to leave the mistakes in, because then people understand that they're not the only ones that make a mistake, because I just make tons of mistakes. But I remember this because I remember looking at the picture thinking, now that doesn't look like the picture. When I did this the first time, and I had to take it apart and do it over again. Okay, so now we got our batting in there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim my batting down. You probably can't see that end, but you'll be able to see me going this. I'm just going to trim close to the batting. I've got my Ginger double curved scissors. These work real well. Okay, get this side done. And that's why I just like to use like the scraps, because then you have to trim them anyway, because even if you cut them, they're not the right size. You still have to trim them, so I never cut the batting. It's just too much work. I always have lots of scraps laying around. Okay. Second here, it looks like I've got, whoops, got a piece of red thread underneath there. Okay. All right, so now we're ready for the placement line for the fabric. So now we're going to put our placement line in. I'm just leaving my white thread in. Yeah, this was the only one. I'm going to definitely make a note after I pause the video for a minute in a little bit. I'll definitely make a note that I don't forget that. And there was another one in here too. I think I made a note about that one though, so I don't know why I didn't on this one. I write all over my books, so. Okay, so there's our placement line for our fabric, and now we're going to put the fabric in. Get it kind of centered up there, best I can. This has got the shape flex on the back, and I've already ironed that on the back, okay? Gives it a little bit more body. And now we're going to do the tack down line for the fabric. And I'm just leaving the white in. Ooh, sounds like I need a needle. See if we can get through this block. I may have to change my needle. Sometimes they make a funny noise, and you can tell that you need a new needle. You kind of get to know the sound of your machine. You know, everybody's machine sounds different. And I mean, when I sew on someone else's machine, it totally sounds different than mine. Okay, so then step number 5 in quilting is always going to be the quilting. So this is going to be Halloween number 1, so it's all the little spider webs. And I'm just going to do that in white so that the black spider webs that are going to be in the design show up. So I just did these in white. And it takes a few minutes for this to go. So I may pause the video for a moment and make that note so I don't forget that again about moving the little spider down. And then I'll come back after the quilting's done. Okay, so I've got the quilting all done. You could probably see the outlines even though it's in white. It's really cute with the little spider webs. And now we're ready to start the actual block. So we're ready to start the little spider, and he is going to be in black. So I think the rest of this I'm going to do in, ooh, I did some purple in this one too. So we're going to put the black thread in. So I went ahead also while the video was paused, I also changed my needle because it was making a funny noise, and I've got my black thread in here now. So the first thing of the actual block is going to be the placement line for the little piece of vinyl here, the little glitter vinyl. And it's also going to do the spider's little legs and show us where we're going to put this vinyl, and also our piece of rickrack. So we got to get all of the 6 little legs here, 8. I guess he has 8. They have 8 little spiders. I forgot there was some purple in this one. I try to write everything when I make something the first time, in case I decide to teach it. So, but I didn't write that note. I did though. See, I have it right here now. Move design down to sewing line. Web will be just at the seam line. So I wrote that down this time so I won't forget. There weren't too many of them in this that were like that, but this one was weird because it didn't really say to do that. And you can see when you go to the trimming instructions, that's normally where you have to go to find that information, like if something's off center or something, because they have you trim it that way. Well, this one, when you're doing the quilting, you have to move the design to make it in the right spot. So I think we got it in the right spot. All right, so let's get this little tail out of here. And the next step is going to be a little, just a little line up here to show you where to put your rickrack on. And I'm just going to leave the black in. I could see it well enough that I could see where it was going to be, because it'll be like a double line there. So they give you like a little placement line for the rickrack. So it's just right at the top of his head. Okay, so then we're going to do we're going to put the rickrack in first, and we're going to lay the rickrack about a quarter of an inch past that little line. You can kind of see where it's double right here. So I'm just going to lay that in there. And then we're going to, oh yeah, I definitely would want to tape this one. So we're going to tape this one down. And it's been a while since I've made these blocks, so I'm sorry if I hesitate. I made them probably about 4 or 5 months ago, and I thought I had everything really written down, but you know, you never are as prepared as you think. Then there is actually going to be a little tack down line here, and I'm going to put a piece of tape on both sides. And I'm actually, you know, I always worry that it's going to catch, so I think I'm going to get my glue stick out, and we're going to actually, I'm going to leave this here to keep it from moving up there. But let's put a little bit of glue under here just to make sure. Doesn't hurt. I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I'll put a little bit of glue underneath that little flap, because with my luck, the foot will grab it and pull it off. All right. And then there's going to be a little tack down line there. So, whoops, second here. Pulled my hoop out. Then we're going to just stitch over that just to hold it down. And then it says, so we stitch the spider web tack down line, remove the tape. Okay. So we're going to do that. And I'm a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch, so I might just trim this off just a little bit. Let's just trim one of the little bumps off here. Like that. Oops, I don't think I quite got through it. There we go. That's better. Take the tape off, and I'm just going to tape this down. I'm going to take the tape off up here, but I'm going to tape this down to my hoop up here just so that it doesn't flop over on me, because, you know, it would do that. Okay. And then the next step is going to be laying the glitter down. So I already have the carrier sheet. You know, this glitter comes with a clear plastic carrier sheet. So I've already got the carrier sheet off, and I'm just going to lay it down over the spider's little body, and there's plenty there. And you can tape it if you want. And I'm going to go ahead and do the next step, which will be the tack down line for that. Oops. Let's not have the little thing to put on. There we go. The tack down line for the glitter. So I'm just using my black thread, and then I think we need to do, oh yeah, he has little eyes too, so we're going to do his little eyes in white. Okay. Oh yeah, the letters were in black. That's right. There's a little swish that goes through here that I did in purple. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to trim the glitter vinyl down, and leave just a teeny little lip, because this is actually going to be raw edge. It says it's the raw edge applique, and there's no extra stitching around here. So I'm just going to leave just a teeny little edge around the stitching. So we're just going to trim this down. Oops, let me get my nickel out of the way here. We're going to trim this down. And then, like we normally do with glitter vinyl, is after we get this trimmed down to where we want it, then I'm going to take it over to my ironing pad with my little tiny iron. Now be very careful not to cut through. Don't cut through your little spider web here, okay, your rickrack. Just be careful and get your scissors on top of that. Because, you know, I think I actually did this block 3 times because I cut through my rickrack the first time. And then I realized it wasn't in the right spot, got it all done, and then I had to do it again. So, you know. Aren't you glad that I try to do these before I teach the classes and stuff? Because otherwise we'd all be making the same mistakes, and then you'd have to start over. So at least I caught it early enough. Okay, so there's my, whoops, I don't think I got a very good edge there. There we go. Alright, so there's my little spider. Now I'm going to take him over here, and I'm just going to tip the camera up. I've got my little iron sitting over here with my ironing mat. And I'm going to take my hoop out of my machine, lay it over here on the little ironing mat. tip the camera up so you can see it over here. Got all the fans running too. And I'm going to put my pressing cloth on over the top and then just press down on this about 20 seconds. I've got my little mini iron. I love this little, this is the most perfect iron for doing these like glitter, because then you can, it just fits in all, even the little bitty hoops it fits in, so it's great. So I got it on high, and I'm just going to hold it down on my spider for about 20 seconds or so and adhere that to the fabric. Okay, there we go. So that's ready to go. I think I might shut my iron off now. I don't know that we need, well, we might need it in the next one actually. So maybe I won't. Okay. So we'll put him back in here. And I think the next step is going to be his little eyeballs. Yep, it's his eyeballs. So, and like I said, I'm going to leave this taped down over here, my little spider web, because with my luck he will flop into what I'm doing. So we're going to try to keep it laid flat there. And yeah, I'm going to get my white, let this cool off just a little bit before I put my white thread in here, and then we're going to sew out his little eyes. Alright, oops, I even got it into the machine this time. I always forget to put the little flipper down, and then, you know, the machine has the little crying man. Tells me that my hoop's not in the machine. Let's do the little eyeballs are next. And then I think we're going to do the spider web. So then we'll know how well we did getting it lined up down here. Hopefully we did okay. So I'm going to go back to my black. Okay. Looks like I got a little tail, so we'll trim that little tail there off of his eyes. And now we're going to go down here to the black and do the little spider web. And this little spider web, with any luck at all, is going to be right along this, like the stitching line right here. So let's see how well we did getting it in the right spot. So let me get my black thread, and then we're going to do some of the words in black too. So I'll pause the video for some of the words. There's a lot of words on this one. The thing that was the hardest was getting it lined up correctly, because this one, like I said, this pillow didn't give you some of the information. I thought you have to kind of go, and you have to do the same thing with some of the quilts. You have to kind of go and look at the cutting instructions before you start lining it up in the hoop, because it kind of tells you then that you need to move things, but it doesn't always tell you somewhere else. All right, let's see. Ooh, I think I did it. It's right on my cutting line. I think we did it. Or actually not the cutting line, the seam line. I think we did okay. So there's our little spider web, and then we're doing all the words. And I'll do those in black also. Yep. So see, I got it moved down. If you look at the little red line, when that part of the design was selected, then you know you're getting it about the right place, because the little red line was right down on this line right here. So see, yeah, it looks pretty good. I'll hold it up so you can see it. Looks pretty good. You hold it up to the camera so you can see it just a little better. But so you can see, can you see where the black is to the white? And that's where I want it, because that's going to be my seam line, and I want it to be just to be right in the edge of the seam. And then the little spider, see, has a little space on the left. Okay. All right. So now we're ready for the words. So I'm going to get the words started. And it's going to be bugs and hisses is the first words. And I'm going to do all of my words in black. And then we'll do the swish in purple. So I'm going to do all the words in black. I'm just going to leave my black in. And I don't think I mentioned which needle I was using. I do have a number 11 organ embroidery needle in. And that's what I replaced my needle with too. But listen to your machine. If your machine sounds different, often it's just you need to change your needle. And I do change my needle quite regularly. I would say every maybe 3 or 4 bobbins would be the most I let it go. Sometimes I need to change it more often than that, because I hear something that doesn't sound right. So, all right, so we're going to be doing bugs and hisses here, and then welcome here. in the words, and I'm just going to do all the words, and then I'm going to pause the video while it's doing all these letters, and then I'll come back and we'll finish up this block. Okay, so I got all the words done. Bugs and hisses, welcome here. And now we're going to do, there's a little swish, and they put like little X's and O's, like, you know, bugs and hisses, you know, hugs and kisses. So we're going to put some, I'm going to use some purple for that. So let's go ahead and change over to the purple. And we're going to do, there's a little swish, and then the X's and O's. They make the machine stop in between all the letters and stuff too. So if you want to use more colors, I just used black on mine. So whatever you'd like to do, but they usually put the stops in, so if you want to change colors for some of the words, you can do that. All right, so let's going to do the little swish here. And this is step number 12 in the instructions on page 10. So there weren't a ton of instructions for this one, but the one that I really had to really pay attention to was that first one. So I think we got it. Looks pretty good. So, and I think this is the only block, and I got some little jump clips. I'll trim these later, but there's a couple little jump clips in here. There's our little swish, and then I think the next one is, yeah, the little X's and O's. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave my purple in and do the little X's and O's. And then there's going to be a trimming line on this one also. So we're going to already kind of have a trimming line, because it's going to tell us to trim like at the top and the bottom of this tack down line, but they put it in because if we're doing this without the quilting first. I really like this pre-quilting though, because this works really, really well for the pillows. I like it really well for the pillows. I'm not as I don't like it as well for the quilts, because I like to quilt through my quilts. So I just love this method though for the pillows. It just makes them so pretty, and then they have all these darling little quilting designs on them. So I think this is like the little X's. And I must do, oh, it does the O's separate. So they gave you separate colors, so if you wanted to change the colors, you could. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and tell it to do the O's, because I'm going to leave mine all purple. And then the last step is going to be the little stitch, or the little cut lines then. So we'll get ready to cut also. So if you give me while this is stitching, I'm going to move some things on my table here so I can bring my cutting mat over. So we're ready to cut here. Looks like I'm going to have a few little tails and little jump clips to clip. This was a cute block. I really, and it looks so cute with the hat, because this dangles down from the hat, and it looks like the little spiders hanging off the hat, so it's really cute. Okay, some more O's, I guess, down there. Like I said, it's been a little while since I've done these, so that's why I was happy that I caught this. It's been a little while since I've made these. Okay. So then the last step is going to be the cut lines. So it's basically going to be on our white that we already have, but I'll just go ahead and put them in so you can see a little better. It's purple. So I'm just going to leave my purple in. And then we'll be ready for trimming. Because this ends up being like 2 by 8, I believe. Let's see. The block, 2.5 by 8.5. So it's finished 2 by 8. There we go. Alright, let's see if I can get my little, looks like I got a couple little tails sticking up here. Alright, there we go. So now we're going to go ahead and do the trimming. So give me just a minute. I'm just going to take this out of the hoop, and then I'm going to I'm going to move the camera over so you can see better what I'm doing for the trimming. Okay, so we're going to use the 6.5 by 8.5 inch orange pop ruler. And if you haven't got the orange pop rulers yet, if you want to do a bunch of these designs, I know they're expensive, but you know what? They are awesome. And it makes it so much easier to trim all these things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this in here. And remember, we moved the design so that the end of our black spider web here is about 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the ruler here, because it's along the actual stitching line, because we have that line sewn in with our quilting. Okay, so I'm just going to center this in here, and then we're just going to cut along the ends, okay, not the sides. And then be very careful that you don't trim your spider web over here, your rickrack. And I gotta find my, oh, there it is, my rotary cutter. I had that over here too, but of course, you know, I moved it. So, all right, so let's get this lined up here. So this is the 6.5 by 8.5 inch rectangle one. I've got this on my Martelli roundabout because it's so much easier to do these on the roundabout. Because you can see how I'm just sliding it around. Obviously the stabilizer is still in there. Okay, so that's now 8.5 inches long, and I'm just going to take that ruler off, and then it says, to using a rotary cutter and ruler, trim the top and bottom edges of the block using the cut lines from the directions, step 15. So that is the lines that it made up here. And we were lucky because these have the cut line is basically right along the white. That was the tack down line for our fabric. So it makes it very easy to trim this one. But be very careful, don't trim your tail off. So I'm going to put this in the inside here so I won't trim it. Because knowing me, I would trim it right off. Okay, so then I'm going to grab my other little ruler. And then there's our little trimming line, and I have the purple line there too. That helps. But you can see where the white line is along the edge of our fabric, and that's where we're going to be trimming. Because we want it to be trimmed at, it's going to be 2.5 inches wide. So I'm going to flip it over. So I trimmed along that first top line where the tack down line was for the fabric. Then I'm going to turn it over, and then we'll just make sure that it lays down. Oops, make sure it lay flat. And then I'll check my measurement to be 2.5, because you can see here that it's 2.5 for the width, and I'm going to cut right along that line on the other side. Oops, I always have a little trouble with this ruler. It likes to move on me a little bit. There we go. Don't think I got a little spot here. Need a new blade. That's the other thing I'll do when I pause the video for a minute. Go put a new blade in my rotary cutter. I've been having a hard time with it. So, all right. So there is our bugs and hisses. So if you look at the picture, I think we did well getting it in the right spot. So let's take a look here. Pull this up, and there's our little tail, and that's going to be dripping down from the hat. And if you look at the picture here, right over here, you can see that the edge of the spider web is about 1/4 of an inch from the edge, and we got that moved to the right place. So it turned out really good. So there's bugs and hisses. Welcome here. And I'm going to trim a couple of these little jump clips yet, and then we're going to move on to the next block, and I think it's the haunted house. So that one has a lot of applique in it, so we're going to move on to the haunted house and do some applique. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move on to the haunted house. Now this one is going to be, it's really fun, but it is, it does have a lot of applique in it. So it's not hard at all. It just has lots of applique. So this one's actually one of my favorite ones. And it's really cute. It has the little sign on it, and that one's done in leather. So let's look at what we need for parts. There's a whole bunch of little applique pieces for this one. So the background piece is this gray piece. I got all these little pieces here. So this is the bigger piece. That's the background piece. And I also have a piece of Shapeflex on the back of that. Okay. And then I have, let's see, the house and chimney are going to be the black. And I've got the black polka dots for that. Okay, that's the house and the chimney. The windows are going to be the yellow. Let me get this. There's kind of a yellowish gold color. Okay, that's the windows. And then we've got foundation. And I think the foundation was the, look at the size of it, 2 by 3.5. I think it's this one. Yeah, so it's the little, and I've got this little piece of black and white plaid to put on that. And then there's a door, and I think I made that purple, so it's the purple one here. Okay. And then let's see, the roofs are going to be the this little stripy one. So I had this gray stripy one, and I think I put it this way with the stripes up and down on that one. And then let's see, the pumpkins. There's some pumpkins, and then we're going to put a little piece of glitter vinyl on there too. So this one still has a carrier sheet, so I'll pull it off in a little bit. And then another piece of orange, and then there's a couple pieces of embroidery leather. So this is the sign. This is white embroidery leather, and then there's a piece of gold embroidery leather for the moon. There's a moon up at the top, and then and then this is the other pumpkin. So the little piece of glitter vinyl. So that's a piece of copper glitter vinyl. So there's a lot of little applique pieces in this one. It's very easy, but it just seems like it just takes a little while because it has a bunch of parts to it. So okay, this was also going to be Jan looked at very carefully at the size this time. It's going to be in the 6 by 10 hoop again, because our quilting design is going to be 4 by 8. So we're going to put this in the 6 by 10 with a 4 by 8 quilting design. And let's see, what else do we need? So I got my no-show mesh in here. I've got my, whoops, can't reach my batting. Got my batting here for us to put in. So we're going to go ahead and get this one set up. So let's get this one set up and get the design. So we're going to go ahead and get our Halloween 4. So I used Halloween 4 on this one. It's one of the quilting designs. Halloween 4. So let me find quilt. There's the quilting. Halloween 4. I have a lot of these designs, so it takes me a while to find things. This one was really cute. It had like some of the little candy corn like flowers in it and stuff. It was a really cute design. And then let's go. Now this one gives you 2 options. This one does block by block and clear blue tiles, but we're doing the block by block method. So we're going to pick the block by block, PES. And then this one is going to be the 4 by 8. So let's go down here a little ways. 4s. Here's the 4s. Here's 4 by 8 right here. 4 by 8. And you can see it's got the little candy corns and stuff. It's really cute. And we're going to set that one. So that is that. And then this one was, I looked carefully at the cover too. This one's going to be centered. I think the only one that had an unusual placement was Bugs and Hisses, but they didn't really tell you that. So, but you can see that the house is centered in the hoop. So we're just going to go ahead and add then the little add button down here. I'm going to go add the haunted house. And everything, we'll just leave everything centered on this one. So home is where the haunt is. I got a fly out here bothering me today. And let's see, home is where, oh here's the haunted house, here it is. So we'll do that one and see it's all centered in the hoop. We'll just leave it centered and set that one. Oh, cool. So there we go. I think we're ready to stitch this one. So we're going to start, of course, with the quilting. And the first step, as usual, whoops, I think I put the wrong color thread in. I think I'm going to use white. No, I did this one in silver. I did write those down. So yeah, I did this one in silver because my fabric is kind of gray, light gray, so I quilted this in the silver. So let's go ahead and put the silver in. And the colors I'm giving you are the brother colors. I use mostly brother threads. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Of course, we talked about that in the live video too. But this is number 005 silver that I'm using. All right, get that over here, and then let's go back over here. So I think we got this one all ready to go. Got my 6 by 10 hoop in here. And the first step is going to be our placement line for the batting. So I went ahead and just left I'm going to use silver for this first part. Gotta find my scrap of batting here. I don't think this one's quite wide enough. I've got a little scrap here, but I don't know that it's wide enough. Let's see. I just kind of use up all of my little pieces because I always have pieces from, and then Judy brings me pieces from her long arm because that works really well. I like, this is Hobbs 80-20 batting. I don't know that I mentioned that last. That's usually what I have because that's what I quilt with. And it's really good batting, and it gives just a little bit more loft than some of the other cotton battings. This is just big enough, so I think we'll use this one. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and lay my batting down, and I'm going to sew out step number 2, which is going to be the tack down then for the batting. But I've used Hobbs for quite a few years now, and it's not super lofty, but it's lofty enough that you see the detail, I think, in the quilting designs better than you do on the real flat cotton battings. But it's not so lofty that it is too poofy. And it's not heavy at all. It's a very lightweight batting. But it's 80-20, so it's 80% cotton, 20% polyester. And I do all my quilts in that too. I've used it for quite a while. I like it. It's really hard. The one batting I probably would not recommend for this method is Warm and Natural. It's very hard, and it doesn't. It's stiff and it's kind of hard, and so it doesn't give you any detail really in your quilting, and then it makes everything very hard. I like the other kind of. If you rather have cotton batting, I really like the Quilters Select. Select batting. It's really good, and it's going to be cotton batting. They have some blends also. It's sometimes hard to get locally, you know, if you're trying to go to Joann's or something, and they do carry. Hobby Lobby carries Hobbs, and so does Joann's. So I actually buy it, you know, by the roll and stuff, but they have it at Hobby Lobby and at Joann's. So if you need to buy local, it's easier to get Hobbs. Okay, so there's our batting piece. I went ahead and trimmed that. And then I'm going to sew out. The third step is always going to be the placement line for our fabric then. So we'll get that in here. These are really cute. I really like the Halloween. All of the Halloween designs are really cute. And like I said, I kind of pared it down because I think there's 4 different designs, and they used all of them plus another border, and it was so many designs. So I'm just using 1 and 4. These were my 2 favorites. So I thought, and if you already have some of the other ones, use the ones they say. There's a little chart at the front of the book, so I'll show that to you now. If you have all the designs and you want to use them, see there's a chart at the front of the book, and see how I crossed some of them out, and I just put a different option in, so we didn't have so many for the class. But if you have all of them, just use them. And there's about 8 or 9 different ones. So, but I thought it'll look just as cute with just a few. So, okay. So then I'm going to lay my fabric in, and then we're going to tack that down, and then we'll do the quilting. This one is 4 by 8. Yeah, 4 by 8. Finishes 4 by 8. So we're gonna trim it 4.5 by 8.5. I love this. This is one of my favorite gray fabrics, the one with the little lines on it. Kimberbell has a lot of really cute fabric, and I have quite a lot of scraps now, so I usually can cut everything out of my scraps. So I know I cut this one out of my scraps. Okay. So now the next step number 5 then, you know, with the quilting designs is always the quilting. So now we're going to do the quilting. And I'll probably pause the video because it's going to take a few minutes for this because it's pretty intricate. It's going to do the little candy corn flowers and the swirls. It's really cute. And I'm just doing this in the gray. And then we're going to move on and start doing the applique because there's tons of applique on this one. It was a really fun block. Okay, so it's all quilted. Isn't that pretty with the little candy corn flowers in the little swirls. And you can really see it. So that's the thing I like about Hobbs. Can you see, if I tip it up, maybe you can see a little better. You can see how there's a little bit of loft in there, and it just makes the quilting a little bit more visual. You can see it a little bit better. So that's one thing I've always loved about Hobbs. It's not heavy and it's not stiff, but it does give you just a little loft for your quilting. I think everything really shows up nicely. Okay, so here is the quilting. So now we're getting ready to go into the applique. So we're going to start with the house part. And I did this in the black. That's that black polka dot. So I got my black thread in now. And so the first step, of course, is going to be our placement lines for our fabric. So I got to get a hold of there's a lot of little pieces over here. So a lot of little pieces. Gotta find the right one here. There we go. My little piece. And of course, you know, my cat likes to lay on my ironing pad, and so all of my fabric always is covered in in orange cat hair. She loves my ironing pads, and I think, you know, after the iron's been on there, they're kind of warm. I suppose that's why she likes them. Okay, so there's our placement line for our house, and I'm going to lay, and this is steps, you know, 1, 2, 3, and so on page 12 of the instructions. So I'm going to lay my black and white polka dots then over those two, because there's two little places. So I'm going to lay my little black and white polka dot fabric over both of those. And then I'm going to stitch down my fabric. And then we're going to trim. I love doing applique. I remember applique was one of the, I was so scared to do applique when I first started doing this. And so I did a lot of, you know, solid designs, and I learned to digitize quite early on because I had a very small sewing machine, only a 5x7 hoop, so I had to learn to do some stuff in software really early on so that I could, you know, do some bigger items. And my machine was one of the older ones, and you couldn't combine designs, so like I couldn't do more than just one thing at a time. So I could do that in the software, so I learned to combine things so I could do lettering, but I was very scared about applique. So I didn't learn to do applique until maybe a couple years later. So, okay, so we're going to trim this down. I just love to do applique. This is my favorite. I'm going to trim our little house down here. Sorry if I got my hand in the way. I just have to hold up on the fabric a little bit. I always get lots of little strings. And don't forget you got a little chimney up here, so have to get the chimney. It's a little piece. I'm going to have to turn this a little bit. Alright, get this one. There's lots of pieces for this one. There was quite a few pieces in the hat also, so I had to kind of choose one that didn't take as long and one that took longer for each of the video and for the live, because I didn't want to have all the really long ones in the live video, because I figured it would be too long then, so we had to kind of split them up a little bit. This one's not hard though, it's just applique. Okay, so there's the house. So the next step is going to be, it's going to be the roofs, and I used the gray for that. So let me get my gray thread. Gray, it's see, this is my Brother Gray. They kind of call it gray satin now, but it's gray. It's always been the gray 817 that I've had these Brother colors for years and years, and you know, it's really good thread. So if you've never tried it, give it a whirl. We have all of the colors in the store and on the website now, and so I really like the Brother thread. I've gotten to the point that's pretty much what I use. Okay, so now I'm going to do the placement line for the roofs. Okay, let's see here. I've got to get my piece of fabric out. And it's going to be this one with all the stripes on it. So there's like a little roof at the top of the chimney, and then there's a bigger roof here, and then there's a smaller, like a porch roof towards the bottom. in the, like, I guess it's in the middle, so there's going to be 3 little places that we're going to have this. I like this striped fabric. This is one of the Kimberbell Basics. I've always loved this stripy fabric. They have it in several colors. And it's directional, so it's cool that you can use it for different, and it makes it look real dimensional and stuff, so. Alright, so there's our little roofs. And then we're going to lay this down over all of those little places. I think I got it big enough. I know I was cutting out of scraps, so now this one, since it's directional, I'm going to try to get it fairly straight up and down, because they tell you to run it this way. Make sure I got it high enough. Did I get it up there? Yeah, here's the little one here. Make sure we got it. And I'm going to try to keep it fairly straight so that it doesn't look weird. So there we go. And then we're going to do the tack down line for that fabric, and then we'll trim it. Yep. So then we'll move on to the windows. So this one just had lots of little applique pieces, but it goes along pretty quickly. I'll pause the video some when we're done with the applique while it's doing all the satin stitching, so you don't have to sit there and watch all that. But you probably would like to know how I put the fabrics on and stuff for the appliques. I'm making this video on a Sunday afternoon. It's rather warm out. It's a beautiful day. But this is the time I have a more extended period of time to work on videos, so I often do videos on Sunday afternoon. Dad, I think, is watching a Cubs game through his eyelids. He might be awake now. All right. There we go. There's the little roofs. So now we're going to do the trimming. And yes, we're going to trim these. I did all of that with the gray. Trim these close to the stitches. And I think most all of this, I'm pretty sure all of this had like satin stitches or applique like motif stitches. So you notice that I always change the thread to match my fabric when I do my applique. You don't have to do that, but I've gotten caught so many times that I didn't realize it was going to be a motif stitch, and then I had like white thread under my black motif. So I would tell you, if you're not sure where you're going with it, you know, if you haven't looked ahead and you're not sure what kind of covering stitch is going to be, just change your thread. I just kind of gotten in the habit of doing that, and then I know it's going to be okay. So, all right, let's get this. Then we got to get this big one up here. I think I've got somebody texting me. I hear my phone dinging on the floor here. All right. So we got all kinds of little hairs, but there we go. That gray fabric is I've always noticed it's ravelly. Depending on the fabrics, you know, some fabrics are more ravelly than others. That one's always ravelly. And they use it in quite a few of their designs. So, all right, there we go. So there's our roofs. Now the next step is going to be the windows. So the windows I did in kind of a gold color that matched my fabric, and so that is called Golden Basket, 1300 Golden Basket. And I went through all the colors in the live video that I used. So there's really not that many colors in this one. I mean, there's only maybe, I don't even know if it's 10, maybe 10 colors. So there wasn't that many colors in it. All right, so now we're going to do the outlines. This is the placement line for the windows. So I got to find my window fabric. This little gold color. And then, and then it's the door. So we're going to do the windows first and then the door. This is such a cute little house. All the wonky little windows and... Okay. Looks like I got a little hair sticking up here. My machine still leaves these little tails. I don't know why. Alright, so we're going to put the gold over those for the windows. And then we're going to do the tack down line, and then we'll trim those. And then I think the next one... Oh yeah, at the door. I want to make sure I didn't skip a step. The door and the foundation. So it's amazing how quickly suddenly all the applique just sort of is on the on. There's just a lot of it, but all these different layers. Okay, so we'll trim these, trim our little windows. And let's see here. I always try to trim in the machine if I can, so I know you're able to see. Sometimes it's hard though. These bigger hoops are hard to get switched, you know, turned in the machine. So, all right. So there is our windows, and I think the next one is the door. So I'm going to go ahead and change over to my purple for that. So I'm just using the old purple. A lot of the colors I use in this were the old colors. So the old purple, just called purple, is 614. Just have a little bit left on this spool. I'm trying to get it used up. It's amazing that last little bit just seems to last forever, doesn't it? And I have another spool. Okay, so we're going to do the tack down line, or I'm sorry, the placement line for the door. So that is step number 13 on page 13 of the book. So there's our little door. And I'm going to put my little fabric on. Let's see, maybe we'll put it this way. Okay, put that over the door. See, I still have those little tails. I've talked around about the little tails. There we go. Lay that on there. And then we're going to do the tack down line, and we'll trim that one. Then we're going to move on, I think, to the base. So it's like the little foundation of the house. Trim this one. All right. This one's kind of a rounded one. Let's see if I can get it trimmed without having to take it out. Sometimes these round ones I can't quite get my scissors around without taking it out of the machine. Yeah, I'm gonna have to flip it. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Alright, so there's our door. And then what is next? Oh, this is the foundation, and I think I used black on that one because it was like black and white plaid. So let's put the black back in. And, whoops, get my purple out of the way here. But I've learned that I know it takes a little time to change the colors for the fabric, but I match my fabric, and a lot of people ask me, how do I choose my colors? And I choose my colors, I look at the fabrics, and I match my fabrics generally. So, you know, now a lot of the designs are giving you, this is the placement line for that foundation. A lot of the books and the instructions are giving you like some thread options now, the thread colors, which is really nice. And then what I do is I take that option or that color chart that they give you and then match my fabrics so that things match. So now I'm going to take my plaid. Let's see, this is going to be kind of, I want to make sure I get some plaid on that. So let's see, let's put it like that maybe. And then we're going to stitch out the placement line, or the tack down line. I'll get them right yet. I'm sorry, guys. Don't mind me. It is a Sunday afternoon. We're supposed to be resting on Sunday, right? I have a tendency to work on Sunday because I'm almost always home on Sunday, so works out that I'm almost always home. All right, so then let's go ahead and trim this one. Yeah, that left some nice little plaid on there. I just wanted some of the plaid. There. Oops, I didn't get that one very good, did I? That's the other one of my other favorite fabrics is that plaid. They have that in a bunch of the colors too. They have an orange in it too that I've used in a lot of stuff. I really like the Kimberbell fabric. It's very cute. And I have quite a bit of it now. I mean, as I've gone along and I bought kits and stuff, then I have scraps. So I can really cut a lot of stuff out of scraps. Okay, then let's see. What's the next step? The next step, oh, it's going to be a pumpkin. And I'm going to use my pumpkin thread. It's called Pumpkin. And it's number 126, one of the old colors. And I think the first pumpkin is actually the fabric. So this is the lighter of the oranges. They had you use 2 oranges. This is the lighter one. So I'm going to use this one first, and we're going to cut this out of the fabric. Okay. This one's going to be that little piece of, this is one of my favorite ones too. I like this with the little, looks like little flowers, almost like little poinsettias almost. So we're going to do this one first. Okay, oops. You get that little tail out of there so it doesn't get caught in something. We'll put this on there. Okay, and then we're going to do the tack down line. And then we'll trim that one. See, the applique goes pretty quick. Once you get going, there's just a lot of applique. This one had a lot of steps in it, because there was quite a lot of applique. But then you go back and you do all of the covering stitches, satin stitches and so on. All right, so we're going to trim this one, the little pumpkin. And then, oops, it's kind of curved on the top. See if I got it. I think I got it. Oops, looks like I got another tail sticking there. There, I think I got it. Okay, so there's our first pumpkin. And then now we're going to do the second one, but the second one is the darker color. It's going to be out of our glitter vinyl. Okay, so this is step number 25, 26, 27, 28 on the top of page 14. So this is going to be the darker orange. So I'm going to grab my darker orange. And that is 1122 Orange Aid. So it's got just a deeper shade of this one. So here's my darker one. So we'll use that one for the second pumpkin here. And of course we need to take off that clear carrier sheet first. And then we're going to press this one down. So I think I've still got my little iron on. I'm going to get some of this stuff off of here so we can iron or press. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off. We don't want that clear sheet on there. And keep all your scraps, because often you don't need hardly any of this glitter vinyl. So just keep your scraps. Okay, and then the first thing we're going to do is do the placement line. And then we're going to put our glitter vinyl down for the applique. Okay, oops, second here. Put that down, and then we're going to do our tack down line. And this one I may have to put my glasses on. This matches pretty well. Sometimes with this matchy stuff I have a little more trouble trimming without my glasses on. And then of course with this being glitter vinyl, we're gonna put this over on the ironing mat, and we're gonna press this down just a little bit. Okay, so let's see. I have to put my glasses on to trim this one. All right. Get around this, and then we'll press it. Now this one I think actually has some satin stitches around. Let me look. I think it does. Yeah, these all had satin stitches around them, so this is not going to be raw edge. This one's going to be actually satin stitched around the edge, because there's a bunch of satin stitching we have to do after we get done with all these applique pieces. Because most of this one was covered. There are a couple pieces that are raw edge. The moon, I think, is, and I think the sign is, the white sign. So, okay. So now I'm going to take this over here. I'm just going to tip this up so you can see what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this over here to my pressing mat with my little mini iron. This is up on our website too. If you don't have one of these are so awesome. These little Nifty Notions mini irons, and they're so nice because they fit. They fit in things. In all the hoops. So I'm just going to press that down for about 20 seconds, 15, 20 seconds. Okay. Oops. There we go. And I put my pressing cloth on there. I just use a tea towel. One of my grandma's old tea towels, so I have a lot of, my one grandmother loved to make tea towels and hand embroider, so we have tons of tea towels. Okay, so now we're ready to go on to, we're going to go on to the moon. So this is going to be some of the embroidery leather, and this one is going to be in the golden basket. So that's that 1300 golden basket for the moon. Okay, so I'll tip my camera back down so you can see. So see, it's starting to take shape. It's starting to look like a house, isn't it? So let me get my golden basket again. And then this one is going to be, yes, this one is raw edge. So the moon is going to be raw edge. So when we trim this, we're going to be careful so that it looks nice on the edge, because there's no covering stitch for this one. Okay, so we're going to do our placement line. And then I've got my piece of gold embroidery leather. I really like these leathers. They are so soft and they just look so cool on everything. They have a little lock to them. Alright, so then we're going to put our little piece over here. Make sure I don't have any tails sticking up. And then we're going to put this over the top. And then sometimes I usually have to hold this because it's just a little, it scoots a little bit. So I'm going to hold this with my finger. Just watch your hands. And then this is going to do the tack down. So this is going to be like a triple stitch, I believe, as I remember. Yep. And then it's going to, and then we're going to trim this, and this will be raw edge applique. So we're going to be careful when we trim this that it looks beautiful on the edge. Alright, so here's our moon. Isn't that cute? I just loved this quilting design. A lot of it's covered up, but it is really cute. Okay, so second, I'm going to put my glasses on for this. This one kind of matches too, so. Alright, now when I trim this embroidery leather, I found that if I kind of tip my scissors back towards me, I don't get so much of that white showing, because the backs of a lot of the embroidery leathers are white. And so if you trim this way, it's going to give you a bevel, and then you see the white. So I do usually tip my scissors back so that they're a little bit more horizontal, and then I can keep from most of that white from showing. Okay, then I have to turn this way to do this side. I don't think I did a very good job on the tip here. There we go. Then I have to turn this way to get this side. So hopefully you can see me. I'll tip the camera just a little bit more. So see how I'm kind of tipping my scissors. And with these lighter colored ones, you don't notice it quite as much. But there's a couple of them, like the red is white on the back, and I think it's that blue color, and you really notice it with those darker colors. So I didn't do too well with this one. Let's try making it a little bit smaller here. My lip was a little bit big. There we go. That looks pretty good. Alright, so there's our moon. I love that embroidery leather. Isn't that cute? All right, let's see if we can get this back in here. And then I think we have, ooh, I think we got all the applique done except for the sign, and they do the sign towards the end. So I think we're ready now to do satin stitching. So I'll probably do some of the satin stitches, and I'll come back and show you after each color. But the next one is going to be the house. So it's going to be in black. And I'll get it started, and then I'll pause the video in between, and then I'll come back and show you each color that I use for each piece, because it takes a little while to do the satin stitching. So we'll start with the black, and it's going to do the house where the polka dotted fabric is. Get this on here. All right, so now we're ready for the satin stitches. So then we're going to move on to the roof. It kind of does the same basically the same order that we did them before. So, all right, so I'll pause the video for a moment while this is stitching. It'll take a little bit, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the next color. Okay, so I've got all the black satin stitches along my little house here, and now the next step is going to be the roof. So I put in my 817 gray, or gray satin, I think they call it. So I'm going to put all the satin stitches around my roof panels. So we'll get this started with the gray satin, and then we're gonna start working on the windows again. So up it goes to do the satin stitching on the roofs, and then I will pause the video while it's doing that, because like I said, it takes a little while. This one had quite a bit of stitches. This one had about 18,000 stitches in it with all the satin stitches. And then I'll come back when it's ready for the next step. Okay, so we got the little roofs done. Okay, they're all satin stitched. And then the next step is going to be, this is number, let's see, it's number 35 in the instructions. And I'm going to put the black back in, and it's going to do the little crosses, you know, like the little windows in the windows, the little, like the little sashes or whatever in the windows. And then we're going to go on to golden basket. We're going to put golden basket in and do the satin stitching on the windows. So here's the little centers of the windows, like the little sashes or whatever they call them. Oops, looks like my thread decided not to cut. So I'm doing those in black, and then we'll put in the golden basket again. And do the satin stitches on the windows. So we're slowly working our way down the house here. Okay, so let me get these little pieces trimmed off where it decided not to cut. I probably need to clean out my machine again. If you start getting like it doesn't want to cut for you, you probably got a little piece of thread stuck in your cutter. So mine likes to gather thread down there, so probably need to clean mine out. So, okay, so I'm going to put my golden basket back in. This is step number 36 in the instructions on page 14. And we'll do the satin stitching on the windows. And I think the next one's going to be the door. Nope, yeah, it's going to do some door details. What do they call the little black things? Stitch the window pane. There we go, window pane. That's what they called it. Okay. All right, so here's our golden basket, and it's going to do the satin stitches around the windows. Okay, we got our windows done, so here's the satin stitching on the windows. And the next step, which is going to be step number 37 on page 14, is going to be the door detail. So I actually put my black back in for that, because it's going to do a little bit of detail on the door down here. And then we're going to move on and do the satin stitching on the door, so I'm going to put my purple back in. So we'll just do the little, I'll show you the little detail on the door. Going to put a few little panels on the door, I think, and then we'll put our purple back in and do some satin stitching. That was quick. So then I'm going to go ahead and switch over to purple, and we'll do the satin stitching. All right. Get this. Oops, where's my purple? Here it is. Still trying to get that purple that's almost empty. Emptied out, so there's still there should be enough to do the satin stitching, I would think. All right, So this is step number 38 on page 14. And there's the satin stitches for the door. So I'll be back when it is about done. Alright, so got my little satin stitches around my door, but of course, you know, I kind of changed my mind in midway through here, and I did this in the black, but I decided I wanted to actually do the foundation in gray, so the black will be fine here, so I don't have to worry about it. So I am going to actually, instead of switching to black, I'm going to switch to gray, my gray satin. So just a second. I thought, oh, I forgot to mark that I had changed it. But this one's dark enough, and the satin stitches are dark enough that it's not going to show, so it'll be fine. Okay, so now we're going to do the little foundation part here. Let me put this back up here. And that will be in the gray. That's step number 39 on page 14. So, alrighty, I'll be back in a minute, and we're going to move on to, we're going to start working on the pumpkins next. Okay, so we got the little, oh, sorry, made my machine mad here. Got the little foundation on there, got my gray on there instead of the black. I always change my mind, it seems like. And then the next step, which is going to be step number 40, is going to be the little pumpkin stems. So these are green. So I got my lime green. This is the newer lime green. This one is 1072. There's a couple of lime greens now. The old original one, and then this one's a little bit lighter colored. This one matched my fabric better, so that's why I chose this one. And then we're going to switch over and do the pumpkin satin stitches. So the first one was in the lighter pumpkin color, the 126 pumpkin. So we'll do that one first. And then the glitter pumpkin was done in the orangeade. We get the thread changed here, and we'll go on to the next one. So let's get the green off and put the orange on. So this is pumpkin, numbered 126. This had a lot of stitching on it. This was a fun one, though. They had so many cute, it was so easy. It's just lots of applique, though, so it takes a little while to sew it out. Lots of trimming. So we'll do the little satin stitches on the pumpkin here. And then the second one is in the orangeade. So I'll get that one ready. That's the darker orange. We're getting close. Then we're going to start working on, oh yeah, then we're going to do the sign. We did the sign kind of last. And it's done, it's applique also, but it's done with a piece of that embroidery leather. So there's the first one. It doesn't take too long for the little pumpkins, so there we go. Alright, we got that one. So let's switch over to the orangeade, which is the darker orange, and do the second one. And then we'll start doing the sign. So this pillow was taken after an older, one of their very original designs, Kimberbell designs that they did. It was a wall hanging, and you can still purchase the wall hanging pattern in their vault. This one is in the downloads section now because it's new, but they took it after that, and a lot of the blocks are the same. And then there's going to be a new Christmas one come out, I think, that's taken after one of their older wall hangings as well. So they originally, most of their designs originally were just sewing designs, like quilting, traditional applique and all that, and machine applique instead of embroidered applique. So it's been kind of fun to get some of these older designs done for the embroidery machine. So, okay, so we're getting around this pumpkin, and then I think this is step number 42 in the book on page 14, and then we're going to switch to page 15, and then we're going to do the, we have to do the little hanger for the sign, and I did that back in my lime green again. So I'm going to put the lime green back in. Let's put the lime green back in here. And we'll do the little hanger for the sign, and then we'll start working on the sign. Okay. I was just going to do like a little hanger. I kind of wanted to be able to see it, so that's why I put it in the green. Thought it was kind of cool. And then I'm going to switch to black. And we're going to do the sign, and it's going to be raw edge applique also. Looks like I got some little tails down here. I spend a lot of time trimming. There we go, and then this one has a tail too. Let's get this one out of here before we get it underneath our white leather, if I can get a hold of it. There it goes. Okay. And then we're going to switch to the black, and I'm going to put the first step is going to be the placement line. So this is step number 44. And we're going to put this, I'm just going to put my black in. And we'll do the placement line for the sign. Give me a second, I think I need to push this up. Yep. Do the placement line, and then we're going to lay our piece of white embroidery leather down, and then we'll stitch this down. This one's going to be raw edge applique. Okay, so you can see where the, oops, decided not to cut again. It's time to clean out from underneath. Okay, so here's our sign. You can see where the little placement line kind of goes over into here on the house, and just lay that over that. And then it's going to do the tack down line, and then we're going to trim it, and it's going to be raw edge applique. I thought the little sign was really cute. Now it does have some really small lettering on the next step, and it suggests using a 70-10 needle. Honestly, I did not change it. And the other thing you could do is you could put in like a number 60 thread, because the lettering is very small. So I'm going to trim this, and this is going to be, again, I'm going to tip my scissors kind of towards me, because this is going to be raw edge. And don't trim right up to the stitches, you know, leave a little teeny bit of a lip. But I did not switch over. I use a number 1175 needle all the time. The thing is, if you put in, just so you're aware, if you put in a number 10 needle, you cannot use your needle threader on this machine. You can use your needle threader down to an 11, but don't try to use it on that 10, because you'll break it. And normally I don't need to use those little small needles. I've just never had any trouble. You could put a number 60 thread in, and that would help a lot with this one. But I would just use my number 11 needle with that. That's why I've always used a fairly small embroidery needle, and even if you're doing small lettering, it usually does quite well with that. And then the other tip that they give you is to put black bobbin thread in, and if your machine is sewing well and is adjusted properly, it should not need black bobbin thread. I never use black bobbin thread for that kind of stuff, and I am not going to switch it, because I know my machine's going to sew it fine. All right, didn't do too well with my trimming though, did I? It's always hard. This is always hard to trim, because it's just a little bit, it's hard to turn this hoop in the machine. There we go, that looks a little bit better. Let's see if I can get this one trimmed a little bit better. This little side I didn't do too well. There we go, that looks better. Okay, and this is real soft, so it's not, I'm afraid if I put a number 10 needle in, it would actually break, because there's a big, there's a big satin stitch right here, and I didn't read that part evidently when I did it the first time. So the one thing I would suggest, is possible that it would sew out a little bit more clear if you would put a number 60 thread in your needle. but I just don't happen to have any. So I'm just going to leave my black thread in and my number 1175 needle, and I'm just going to sew it in that. And this is just little straight stitches. I didn't have any trouble with it sewing. And the number 60 thread is nice, so if you happen to have it, it may make it just a little bit more clear, but I thought I could easily read mine. So I just used that, and I did not put black bobbin thread in. Now, if your machine is not sewing real well and you notice it trying to pull up bobbin thread all the time, then I would highly recommend putting in black bobbin thread, but I normally do not have to with my machine. It sews well. And if they're properly adjusted, you don't need to. Did it cut this time? Woohoo, it did. My machine is not cutting very well. That means I have a piece of thread stuck in it. So we'll be fixing that in a little bit. So I'm going to let this stitch, and I will come back as soon as it's finished. Okay, so there's our sign. Home is where the haunt is. I do have some little jump stitches to do in there, but you can see that it's very readable. I did it with my number 40 thread, with my standard number 1175 needle, and I'm just gonna have to clip the jump clip so it sewed real nicely. Okay, so sorry, I'm having a orange helper coming to help me now. So now we're gonna do the trimming. So this is all done. I'm going to go ahead and take this out of the hoop. I'm going to move this machine over. I'm going to move the camera over, sorry, so that you can see my cutting, and then we'll get this one trimmed. Give me just a moment. I'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get this trimmed. This one's going to end up being, I believe, 4.5 by 8.5. Let me check yep, 4.5 by 8.5. So we're going to use 2 of the orange pop rulers for this one. I'm going to use the 4.5 by 6.5 inch one to help me with the side to side, and then up and down. And this one helps. It's nice sometimes to use 2 different ones anyway, because then you can tell if you're pretty close to being centered. And what I'm doing right now is I'm looking at our placement lines over here, or our tack downs for the fabric, kind of help us know that got it centered side to side. But I'm looking right now at the top and the bottom, and I can tell there's little marks up here that are like 1/4 of an inch apart, and I can tell if I'm fairly close to even there, because there's a 1/4 inch line down here and a 1/4 inch down here, so I think I'm pretty close there. And then I'm going to lay in my bigger ruler here. See, I think I'm just a little crooked. There we go. Lay this one in. Then we know that we're pretty close this way because of the smaller one. Okay, so now the first thing we're going to cut is we're going to cut along the sides, because we want it to be 4.5 inches, and then we're going to take the little ruler out. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this way. And remember I'm left-handed, so I'm working from, I turn it and I'm working on the right-hand side. I've got the rotary cutter in my left hand, so I'm going to go up this side, and I'm going to turn it around carefully on my Martelli roundabout, and then go this way. So, did you notice that I kind of put the rotary cutter in a little ways, and then I pull back into the corner and then push forward, because it seems to work better for me. So now I'm going to hang on, and I'm just going to take the inside ruler out, and now we're going to trim the bottoms. So we're going to trim along the bottom with the 8.5 inch side. So I'm going to do the same thing on there and turn it around this way. Turn it around this way. Okay. And then I'm going to remove that one, and then we're going to connect the lines here. So I'm just going to turn this and connect. Whoops, sorry, I just bumped the camera. going to connect the ends here. This is the hardest part for me, is connecting the ends. So I usually use a regular ruler for that, because sometimes I can't see through the pop ruler very well. So I usually get a regular ruler out. It's a little easier for me to see the edges then. Okay. Turn this around this way and do the other side. And then this one's going to end up 4.5 by 8.5. Okay. So there is, home is where the haunt is. I just have a little bit of a few little jump clips to clip there, but there is our little haunted house. Isn't that cute? So we're ready for the next block for this video. The last block for this video is going to be, I think it's the Mind Your Mummy. So it's going to be the little Mind Your Mummy block. So that one we'll do last. And that one's mostly just sewing, so we'll just get that one. I'll do all the quilting with you, and then that'll be a real fast one. So this one took a little bit longer, but the first one and the second one took a little bit longer, and then we'll do the last one, and it'll be the fast one. Okay, so we're ready for the final block for this week. It's Mind Your Mummy, and this one's just a little small block that's just stitching. So I'm going to show you how to get your embroidery designs in there, you know, your quilting design, and then your design, and then we'll do the trimming and everything together too. But this one's a real fast one. So okay, so let's go ahead and get this turned here, and let's I've got my background. There's just one piece of fabric for this one, so here's the background, and then of course I put my shape flex on the back of it. It's another one with the little orange polka dots, and we're going to use the 5x7 hoop this time for sure. So I didn't put what color I used. I think I used purple though. For some reason I didn't write my colors in on this one. Oh well. Well, we'll just make it up as we go. So I'm going to go ahead but this one I used Chevron 1 for the quilting design. So let's go get the quilting first. Chevron 1, and they used the vertical, so they had it running up and down. So either one will work. It just depends on what you prefer. So let's go get the chevron. If you want it to go this way or this way, so it just depends on what you want. I'm going to use, it said vertical is what they use, so I can probably use that in the other one. I don't have my pillow here while I'm doing these videos, so chevron 1, here we go. So it's 2x4. And this one just has, so yeah, so see, you can have it go up and down this way, or you can do this way. So 2x4. So I think I actually used this one, so that when I turned it, I think when this comes in, it comes in, let's take a look. Let's try this one first, and if we don't like it, I might have used this one, but I think I used this one. Let's try that one. The one with the chevrons going up and down, because I think the little design comes in this way, as I remember. So let's see. So we'll set that one, and then let's go add, and then we're going to add Mind Your Mummy. So if we don't like it, we can always change it. So let's see here. Where did it go? Home is where the haunt is. And Mind Your Mummy. Here it is. 4x4. Mind Your Mummy. Okay. So this one came in sideways like that. So I think though I wanted to, I'm gonna rotate this one, because I think I do want my chevrons going this way. It's up to you. You can do either way. But see, this needs to be the 2-inch way this way. So it came in along this direction. So I am going to have to rotate that. I kind of remember doing that. So I'm going to hit my edit button, and I'm just going to rotate it to the left like that, because we want it to be like that, and I do want my chevrons to go that direction. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go with that, and it was in the center again. So that will work just fine. I noticed that because I know that the other design also came in up and down instead of this way. So you have to rotate one or the other. So this one, we'll just rotate the design. Okay. So here's our Mind Your Mummy. And I think I'm going to go ahead and I think we're ready to go. Okay. So the first thing, of course, we're going to start with the quilting. And I'm going to go back over here, and the first, and I'm going to quilt this in white. I chose white. And it should be 2.5 by 4.5 in your hoop. So I am using the 5 by 7. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch out the first step, which is going to be the placement line for my batting. So get this, get my chunk of batting ready here. I'm just going to use the white for all this. And then we'll put our batting in and stitch out the placement line. So all of these quilting ones, once you've done a few of these quilting ones in the hoop, it always starts the same way. It's the same system each time. So we'll sew the batting down. And then we'll trim our batting. It's going to go around it a couple times. Okay, so now we're going to trim the batting close to the stitches. Okay. Get that one. And it depends sometimes, you know, how, sometimes, depending on when the designs are saved, sometimes they come in different ways. Like this one, in the book, it appears that it would come in, it comes in horizontal, but this one wants to come in vertical. So one or the other has to be rotated. So it doesn't matter. It could have been this one. We could have rotated this one too. So I liked it rotating the design. So either one works. Okay, so there's our batting. So then this next step, let me get my batting out of the way here. Next step is going to be the placement line for the fabric. And I just left my white in. I'm going to check my bobbin before I go any further because it seems like it's starting to make a little noise. So give me just a second. I'm going to check to see if I've got bobbin thread in here. I've been sewing all afternoon on the same bobbin. Oh, we're doing good. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and place this and try to get it as centered as I can over that line. Okay. And then I'm going to sew down step number 4, which is going to tack my fabric down to the stabilizer. And this is again our no-show mesh stabilizer. And then it's going to do the quilting. Now this one's going to be a little chevron, and it's going to go this direction. So we'll do the chevron. And I did this one in white. So you could, it just shows the nice little texture, but it doesn't show a lot. I have a tendency to not like a lot of my quilting showing. I like the texture, but I like to have it kind of blend into my background fabric. Now if you don't like that, you can make a more contrasting thread here. So that's up to you. And I have a tendency to make them a little bit more neutral so that they kind of blend in. But see how that has that nice texture to it? You can really see it. Okay, so there's our chevron. So now we're ready to start making the design. And the first two are like little scrolls. And I think I did mine in purple. So let's put the purple in and do the little scrolls on the purple. And then I did the letters in black. But I didn't write them in for some reason on this one. So we're just, I don't have my pillow here to look at, so we're going to go with it. So we're going to make the scrolls purple and then the letters in black. I know I did the letters in black. I just don't remember about the scrolls. But I like the purple, so I think they'll look just fine. And then it's got one long scroll. This one's a cute one. This is going to be under the letters here, so... Uh-oh, here comes my troublemaker again. She's going to try to sit on my lap. My cat likes to help me. This is the time of afternoon. She thinks it's time to be FED'd. I can't say the word because then she'll want me to get up and do that. Okay, so now the last step then will be the lettering. Actually, it's not the last step. I think there's a little placement line or something that sews out at the end. So we're going to put black in right now and do the lettering. Get my black going. Oop, I didn't mean to hit you, Gigi. I just wonked her in the nose when I was threading my machine. Okay, so now it's going to do it's going to sew out Mind Your Mummy. So I'll just go ahead and turn off the camera for a little bit because it's going to take a few minutes for this to sew out. And then we'll do there's little placement lines that we need to sew in, and then we'll trim it. Alright, so we got Mind Your Mummy done. So here's the lettering and the little swooshes. And then the last little step is going to be some cutting guides. So I'm just gonna leave the black in so I can see them. Whoops, looks like I unthreaded my machine though. Just a second here. I'll try that again. Okay, rethread the machine. Here we go. And then it's just going to do some little cutting guides on the sides to help us trim this. Because we're going to trim this one, I think it's going to be 2.5 by 4.5. So we'll start out with a ruler and then we'll go on and just trim off these little sections on the side. Alright. So there's Mind Your Mummy. So that was a real quick, easy one to do. It's mostly just stitching. Okay, so I'll go ahead and take this out of the hoop and then I will be right back. I'll move the camera over and we'll do the trimming. Alright, so we've got this one out of the hoop and we're going to start with our 4.5 by 4.5 inch orange pop ruler. And of course we've got our little, tack down lines around for the fabric that help us, that we can get it centered in there. And we're just going to trim off the ends to start with. So give me a second here. I got to turn this. I'm going to get this turned on my mat here, and we're just going to trim along the ends here. Okay. And then this one only needs to be 2.5 inches wide. So where those black lines are here are also where, our tack down lines were. So that can help us. And we're just going to trim then along those lines and make it 2.5 inches wide. Oops, second here. Close my blade, which is a good habit to do. Sometimes I close it a little bit prematurely, so when I need to use it. And then I can also tell if I'm going to be at 2.5 inches wide because I can use my marks here. That'll help me. So I know I've got that measurement correct. There we go. So there is Mind Your Mummy. So that's the final block for this week. So we've got 5 blocks done. So the hat, the pumpkin row, and then these 3. Here's our Mind Your Mummy, the Bugs and Hisses, with the little rickrack waiting to be put together with the hat, and then Home is Where the Haunt Is, the little haunted house. So there's the blocks for the first week. Next week we'll do some more, and in the live class, and I'll also do another video for the rest of them. So Okay, so thanks so much for joining me for part 2 of Home is Where the Haunt Is. We'll see you next week for part 3.